are there any specific violin tips that you can give that are practical for any age group? Because we do have teachers, we have beginner violinists, we have adult beginners. Can you provide some of your violin wisdom to our audience today?
Oh, goodness.
I know the moment I say wisdom, that kind of intimidates a lot of guests. So I'm sorry if I did that. But like, do you have any tips that you just normally share with your students that can be beneficial?
The two that I give the most, one I feel like is said a lot in the community, but it is very practical, and that is don't do it all at once. Break things down, list out what you need to work on, and a little bit each day is better than a whole lot on just a couple days. And making sure it's strategic practice, not just rote playing over and over and over again. There needs to be a plan. And the other thing, which I'm actually seeing a lot more of this, is just building body awareness. This is actually kind of a cool story. I have I believe he's in seventh grade now, and he just has some physically awkward. Like he's not does his body awareness is not a strong suit of his. He's at the beginning he would stand really awkwardly. His instrument was always in a weird place. He's a great ear. He's great like mathematically, so rhythm was always great. He's always really steady, but the body awareness thing was just not quite there.
Hmm.
So he's progressed a lot, but at this point, he was struggling with a specific bow technique in slurring. And I had him do squats while playing. And I know that sounds really bizarre, but if you do squats or sit in a chair and stand back up while you're playing, that kinesthetic like confusion to your brain kind of distracts you from overthinking what you're doing on the violin and allowed him to play it like really well. And once he realized he was doing it, it was like, oh, okay, so this is the feeling I have to focus on when I'm not squatting or sitting in a chair, so that he can replicate that better. So building body awareness, whether that's through a yoga practice outside of violin practice, doing long tones and watching in a mirror and just visualizing what's happening physically. But that's something I don't see taught much with young kids because kids tend to pick things up physically really quickly. But later, especially when you're teaching adults, you need to focus on that pretty much right away. And I feel like we as musicians later in life, we're like, oh, we didn't really learn this. How do we figure this out so I don't have pain, so I don't have weird techniques, so I'm not exhausted at the end of this performance, that we had to learn kind of later in life. But like I said, I'm seeing more of this, and it's really neat to see this coming out.
That's excellent advice. And if you're not taking notes, I suggest that you do. Take a pen and paper, or better yet, pencil and paper, because musicians don't use pen at all. Take a pencil and paper, rewind, write this down, because this is really amazing advice given by Rachel. Rachel, I want to thank you for coming on the Violin Podcast. It's been a pleasure, and for offering your story and sharing your story with us in the Violin Podcast community today. And if you liked this video, if you liked this, I should rewind that. It's not a video, it's an audio podcast. If you like this podcast episode, it would mean a lot to us if you gave us a 5-star rating. Also, if you like to watch these episodes, go to YouTube, watch the clips. It's amazing to be able to see my guests in person on the screen. So, Rachel, again, how can people find you online?
So I primarily post on Instagram at rachel.ridge, and Rachel is spelled Rachael because my family likes to make that a little difficult. And then also on my website at www.rachelridge.com.
Wonderful. And of course, I'm going to leave links to Rachel's posts in the podcast show notes. But if you're also wanting to learn more about Rachel, you could also visit the violinpodcast.com. We have a brand new spanking website. So I encourage everybody to go onto that website to check it out. And also some of our other guests on the Violin Podcast. Everything is now uploaded. Rachel, thanks so much.
Thank you.